The first ambassador who was a woman was Mary Magdalene. John 20, verse 10. After, Mary Magdalene, we know, was healed from 7 demons. She was demon-possessed. She was racked with insecurities, loneliness, despair, disease, some kind of unexplained anxiety that in her day, people didn't really know how to explain it, and so they just called it demon possession because they didn't know what was really wrong with her. Still exists today. Mary Magdalene was demon-possessed. Jesus drove out her 7 demons, and she followed him for the rest of her days. She wasn't married. She apparently had money because she provided for Jesus and his disciples on their journey as they traveled about. She went all the way to the cross. Most everybody fled. Most everybody left, right? The men, all of them except for John, all the disciples fled at the cross. It was too brutal. There was too much. It was too dangerous. It was too scary. Whatever, the women stayed. Mary, the mother of Jesus, we know Mary Magdalene was there. Joanna, there were a few other women there, but they stayed at the cross. So the women saw it. They were there. They were there. They saw it. And then it says, afterwards, the disciples went back to their homes, but Mary stood outside the tomb crying. So everybody went home to obey the Passover, and finally everybody went back home, and the Lord is gone now. I mean, her healer is gone. The lover of her soul, Song of Songs, he's gone. She cannot find him, and she is broken. She has no husband, no children. She had Jesus. Jesus became her Lord. He became her everything. She left everything to follow him. And now he was gone, crucified, not just gone, but murdered before her very eyes. Her heart was so in despair and so broken. When everybody went back to their home, she went to the tomb, and she was weeping at the tomb. And the Bible teaches here that she just stood outside the tomb, and she was just crying and crying. And as she wept, she just looks into the tomb, and she's crying and crying. And then suddenly she sees these angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been inside the tomb, one at the head and one at the foot. And they asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" That was my husband's first memory verse. "Woman, why are you crying?" I'm sorry. Actually, his first one was flee, from 1 Corinthians, flee sexual immorality. We were dating, and he wanted us to stay pure till we were married. And so he memorized the verse, flee. And so he would be going to kiss me goodnight. We didn't want to be tempted to fall into sexual sin, and so he would just say, flee, and then leave. That was his first memory verse. His second one was, woman, why are you crying? I don't know, I just cried. But anyway, so Mary is she's at the garden. She's in the garden. Her heart is broken, and she's crying. And the angels say to her, "Woman, why are you crying?" And she comes back, "Because they've taken my Lord away." He was like all I had. Where is he? And I don't know where they put him. And where did he go? I don't know where they put him. Where did he go? At this, she turned around and she saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't realize that it was actually Jesus. Jesus now says to her, he was the originator of this, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it that you're looking for?" She thinks he's the gardener. He is the gardener. It's totally the gardener, right? Eve in the garden, full circle. She thinks he's the gardener. I'm looking for, and he says to her, "Mary," like, "it's me." And she goes, "Rabboni." That means teacher. Rabboni, teacher, he's risen, right? And she reaches out to hold on to him, and Jesus says to her, you do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them I'm returning to my Father. The first woman he gives the Great Commission to was just a messed up, crazy broad. Love it, totally messed up in the head. Got cleaned up, followed Jesus, crying. She's a mess. But he gives her the first Great Commission. Go instead, tell my brothers, tell them I'm returning to the Father and your Father, to my God and your God. And Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, I've seen the Lord, I've seen the Lord. And she told them that he had said these things to her. Of course, the guys don't even believe her. They're like, well, we'll go see for ourselves. The first one. Crazy, messed up broad. Flawed, but fabulous. Right? What does she do? She goes and she tells. She goes and she tells. Women, go and tell. Go and tell the good news.